First of all, Kevin Ball extension, just what went into that? We asked you a couple of days ago, and it seemed like there hadn't been a ton. What has transpired recently with that?
I think, when we talked earlier, you're talking all the time, but you don't know how close it actually is. So it kind of came together, even though we were busy with the draft, we kind of came to terms right before Friday. So, and then it was just to get it signed and everything, get the paperwork in. So it was nice to get that done prior to the draft and then release it today. So, yeah, we're excited to have Kevin for 6 more years. I mean, he's a big part of this team moving forward. And, he came in and did an amazing job for us. So now we're looking for him to take another step next year in his growth.
What makes him a guy you're, so comfortable having as part of that long-term core?
Well, I think, when you watch the games this year, when he wasn't in our lineup, you're missing that big, heavy, long defender. He moves well. It's hard to beat him. I thought his puck play got much better as the season went along, and he actually was more physical as the season went along too. I mean, I think sometimes you want him to be more physical at that size, but I did see that progression, and I do think he's going to keep taking steps. I mean, he's only 24 years old. I think the sky's the limit. So have him locked up and be a big part of this moving forward is big, just like with Matty Coronado.
Does his role change? Like, he came in here, he had to establish himself, find his place, and now, if some of the young guy defensemen, Prague, Bustevich, are coming in, he almost has a bit of a veteran role to it.
Yeah, but I still want him to play the same way. I mean, I think how he plays is the way we want him to play. We're not, for him, we want him to be hard against top players, move pucks out. It's not going to be points with him. It's going to be how he supports his partner. And I did think even in the last game in LA, how well he played with Zane. It was fun to watch those two and just kind of maybe in my mind vision. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to start either, but I can see that at some point being a pair and moving forward.
For him, just the commitment to Calgary, like sticking around in the offseason and really, him talking about just the work that he's putting in and making sure that he's ready to take another step. I mean, what does that say about where he's at and calling this city a long-term home? Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, he came down today to sign the contract, and just to know he's committed. He's here. He's going to be here. His family loves it here. All kinds of stuff going on over there. So they want to be in Calgary, and they want to be here a long time, well past hopefully the 6 years.
And guys can get to the Saddledome quicker when there's a $30 million. Does that commute take a little less time?
It didn't take him much time. 1 minute I heard he was coming down. Next minute I'm like, oh, hey, Kevin, you're here. So, yeah, I know how to get guys here quickly.
He's getting a massive raise, and I imagine you guys want that contract to be efficient over time. So how do you approach that? Like what data do you have that suggests that, hey, Kevin, this will turn to a value contract that we want down the line?
Yeah, where we kind of envision him, the minutes he plays, like in a top 4 role. Just those things alone, and to kind of have him progress and kind of get better, over time, I think this is going to be a good contract. I mean, this is one where, I think now that we know kind of where the cap is the next 3 years, who knows where it's going to be in the next 6 years. But I think for us to have him make the commitment to the Flames and for the Flames to make the commitment to him meant a lot, And that's what we're trying to build is we want people that want to be here, and Kevin really wanted to be here, just like Matt Coronado.
Is there any comparisons with Coronado, just in the organization committing long-term to players that don't have a whole lot of experience under their belt?
Yeah, I mean, it's, for us, it's a player evaluation. What do we think he's going to be for the next 6 years? And we feel comfortable that he's going to be a guy that comes in, can play against top players, play on your PK. If you pair him with a real offensive player, he's going to support him well. So that's the big thing for us is, we feel there's going to be growth in his game too. I mean, and it's hard to believe, but I just saw him, today, and I'm thinking he even looks bigger than he was, 3 weeks ago. So, he's a big man. He's hard to play against. He sticks up for his teammates. He's well liked in the room. He's a good person, and he's part of the culture that we want to build here.
Is it possible to hear how you feel about your center prospect depth right now than you maybe would have at 3:00 yesterday?
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about centers, and it might not be next year, but it might be a little bit. But I feel very comfortable. We have some really, really good centers coming, so they're in the pipeline. We hadn't drafted centers very often, in the last quite a few years. So to have actually put some into the pool now and get ready, really excited. Yeah, it's something we kind of targeted. If it wasn't going to happen, it was okay, but to have it happen the way it did, I think it was the right time for us to kind of, okay, now we can move forward, and we feel like every position has some real good young players coming.
How do you characterize the 2025 draft class for the Flames?
I would say maybe, the draft of the centers. We got so many centers in this draft, but I think we tried to, we wanted to take players that we thought were complete players that could help us with skill, hockey sense, speed. The one thing I know people are going to say, maybe some of the guys aren't as big, but that's okay because they compete. They have big hearts and they're gonna battle. They don't play like their size. They play bigger than their size, and that's what we're going to need them to have to do. And it's going to be hard because the NHL's, best league in the world, and you got some big men out there. But these guys just have that inner drive, I think, that we've seen, and we think that's going to push them forward and make them top players, hopefully in the NHL one day.
And I guess for you, looking at the guys that you got, I mean, it seems to be an awful lot of guys who are a point per game or over a point per game or around that level, even deep into the draft. And I know, obviously, you guys look at more things than just points, but does that sort of, I guess, the offensive output of a lot of these guys give you some confidence that they can keep progressing and bringing that forward?
Well, we're going to need them to. I mean, that's the one thing. I think when you look at where we struggled this year, it was our goal scoring. It was putting up points on a nightly basis. And I think if you look at the last two drafts, we really are addressing that. I know it takes a little bit longer for guys to be able to come in and make an impact in the NHL, but in our mind, hey, we don't want to rush them, but they're on their way. And we do believe these guys are going to come and be able to push for spots sooner than later. And when they do, we think they're going to be offensive drivers for our team. So that's, even though you might want it today, it might take a little longer, but we feel very comfortable these guys are that.
I'm curious. I know there's some stuff you can't talk about because the new CBA is still not ratified yet. But for this year's class, do you have any sense of have the rules changed for how long you hold their rights, or is it still out of the air?
We hear all the things. I think you guys, we read everything online, and then we ask questions and we don't really have an answer yet. So once it gets, everything's signed, and it might be already. I just don't know. We haven't seen one yet.
As simple as this, but you obviously had 2 first-round picks last year, 2 this year, and 2 next year. When you look, you're 2/3 of the way through that 3-year sort of window. Do you feel like you've checked 2/3 of the boxes with the drafts?
I do. I feel like we've checked boxes. With that, I was thinking in my mind, but we still need these guys to come in here and do it. What we project them to be, we think they're going to be able to help us and be those guys that help us move forward to our ultimate goal is to win a Stanley Cup, to make the playoffs consistently. And then, obviously with the new building coming, you would love to be really on a roll in a couple years and have a lot of these young players pushing for the NHL. And we got some great leaders here that are helping our young guys right now and seeing the guys take steps. So to see, Prek come up, and I know it was one game, but to see him get one game and score, and, it's just you're thinking about the future and where this might go, and all these young players we drafted are part of that.
You kind of mentioned like the high offensive ceilings of most of the players you've drafted the past years. Is that, and maybe in the past year we've seen third liners or middle six wingers in those early picks. Like, did you feel, I guess, high offensive upside you can draft and then you can find the other traits in different areas beyond the draft? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think, the one thing when you can always seem to find players in rightful. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I'm saying you can find players on waivers sometimes. You can find players, certain types of players a little more easily, but those high-skilled players are tough to find. So I think we have to internally find those players ourselves, develop them, and then get them in the lineup and have them be here long-term for us. To go and, get UFAs, it hasn't been a place that we've been able to bring in. I think once the team gets going, the way and the new building's going to help. So I do think that we're going to be a destination at some point for UFAs. You know, it just hasn't been like that up to now, but I think moving forward, we've gotten some really good UFAs to come here, but I think it's going to continue.
What do you see in Theo Stuxilius?
You know, I think just size, skills. You know, he can play wing or center. Internationally, a lot of times he played wing, but he can play center. And I think just when you listen to David, our Swedish scout, talk about him, just the skill, size, strength, and he thinks there's a huge upside there, that he's going to continue to get better. And, you know, where we got him in the draft, you know, you always are in there, and you're excited when a guy really excited about a player at that spot, and that was David. So I think there's a huge upside, and it's just a matter of, you know, getting him over here, getting to meet him and see him. And, you know, I think being 6'3" too doesn't hurt. So we've had some, you know, it kind of balances out maybe some of our other picks.
Was banging on the table at the end there?
What's that?
Was Dennis banging on the table?
You know what? It's funny. We got to the 7th round, and we had two people. You know, David was really banging on the table, and Dennis was banging on the table. So I'm like, we went back and forth for a while. Who are we going to take? And then, you know, Steve Yzerman and I saw a note earlier if you'd like to, you know, make a trade for 211. You know, give him a call. So, yeah, we talked quickly, and then a little bit at the end, because we were going to take one or the other, and we thought, well, heck, if we can have them both these guys are passionate about these players, let's get them. And we were lucky enough to be able to get them both.
You know, you mentioned drafting smaller guys, but then I look at Phillips, and that guy's not small.
Yeah.
What do you like about his game?
Well, I mean, he's a little bit of a throwback. Big, heavy, hard. I mean, if the game gets going a certain way, I think he's going to be right in the middle of that game. And that gives me, as a player, I always liked having those guys on my team. When I think back, who, you know, I guess everybody always thinks, oh, you must like playing all the skill and that. But it's nice to have people that know they have your back, you know, that are going to play hard, be physical, you know, and just make it miserable to play against. And I mean, and you see how big he is already. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch him kind of progress and grow. But I do think, you know, it's something we wanted to have. We wanted to get I'll call it a throwback, big, heavy, hard guy on the back end, and he fits that mold to a T.
We talked about Kevin Ball and how he sort of has that heavy element, and sort of the things that Kevin Ball does allows, you know, the guys who rely on offense a bit more, need space for offense to do their thing. You see sort of Phillips is sort of a guy that slots in. I know you have Hurtig who sort of plays a similar style of game in your system too, but sort of having a few of those guys to sort of complement the puck movers.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to balance it out. You can't just have all of one type player. So to have that mix and to see if there's that chemistry, you know, I think it's great. I mean, I do think that's why Kevin came in and he did such a great job for us, was because we really didn't have that. And then to have him do that, you know, and now to add some more guys like this with Hurtig, like you said, you know, and now, you know, with Maceo, he's big man, like, you know, and the other thing, I think he almost broke Jim Cummins' hand in the interview. So, and Jim's a big man too. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. But we can't wait to get them all in here and see them all.
One more about Kevin Ball. When we talked to him, he was asked about watching the playoffs, and he talked about the Panthers and them being this highly skilled but physical forechecking team. And he said he felt like you guys were building a similar, like I think he said, base of the pyramid. I guess, do you agree with that? Is that what you guys are going for?
Well, we're trying. I mean, obviously, you know, everybody right now wants to be the Florida Panthers. It's hard to be the Florida Panthers because they did have first overall picks. You know, they had some unbelievable players. Billy Zito did an amazing job with the trades, bringing in guys, getting guys assigned there and stay. But we're trying to do and build. He's building something. You know, he built that culture, and we're trying to build the culture. You know, and we want people that want to be here. You know. And I agree with Kevin. You know, that's the ultimate goal, is to be like them. It's just a matter of now, for us, we might just be at the bottom rung, like you said. We're at the starting point, and we want to get to where they are.